One of the most mysterious Pokemon in all franchises was Cubone. Cubone is so mysterious because we learn that Cubone wears the skull of his dead mother. And you would assume that the higher evolution chain would be the mother. So a Marowak would birth a Cubone or baby Cubone, and then that Cubone would grow up and eventually become a Marowak. You would have a Charizard birthing a baby Charmander, so on and so forth. You know, the higher evolution change would eventually have that child of the baby Pokemon, and evolution chain continues. And there's so much debate about a Cubone being a Kangaskhan. The theory goes that Kangaskhan and then the little dude in the pouch is a Cubone. And when the mother dies, the Cubone puts on the Kangaskhan skull. It evolves into Marowak, and that Marowak then evolves into a Kangaskhan. That is the case, and it's also not the case. I've also heard theories about Cubone being a Charmander. Alright. So without further ado, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get right into today's video. I have here a Cubone skull. Now, I like the theory that Charmander is a Cubone without the flame. And I'll put it this way. This skull does not look like a Marowak skull. If you look at a Marowak skull, it's more no horns, just kind of round. The indents aren't as great, and it's an entirely different shape. And the Marowak skull also is like fused to the Pokemon. So you're telling me that the Marowak dies, Cubone puts on the skull as a head that looks like this, and then when it evolves into Marowak, it just fuses together, and that same skull just keeps... Okay, it just doesn't make sense. However, it does look more like a Charizard skull. It's got the horns in the back, the shape. It definitely lines up a lot better. If you look at this reference image, you can see that the Charizard skull does resemble the structure of this skull a little better. It can also resemble a Kangaskhan skull, because if you look at the Kangaskhan skull, the Kangaskhan does have the horns, but it's not as refined as this. Now, it is stated in the Pokedex that if a Charmander's tail goes out, the Charmander does, unfortunately, perish. So, that can't be the case unless some magical power happens where he gets so depressed, puts the Charizard skull on his little Charmander head. And somehow the flame goes out without perishing him, creating a new evolution chain, resulting in him evolving into Marowak instead of a Charmeleon. And then where does it go from there? Looking at the structure of the skulls, there are similarities. There's also always going to be those differences. It is very strange that Cubone and Kangaskhan are typically found in the same environment in the games. It is also very strange that in an SOS battle, Cubone can call a Kangaskhan for aid in the battle, like calling for his mother to come and aid him in the battle. And there's also a beta leak in the original games depicting a third evolution for Cubone. And this third evolution, extremely similar to Kangaskhan, including the pouch. So was this intentional? Was this them telling us that the original concept for Kangaskhan was the third evolution change for Marowak? Because the whole story about Cubone wearing its mother's skull, it would make perfect sense that Cubone has his mother's skull on his head, evolves into Marowak, then evolves into a Kangaskhan, and then we see the baby Cubone in the Kangaskhan's pouch. That Kangaskhan does pass away. That baby Cubone then puts the skull back on his head, and so on and so forth, and the cycle continues. Because we never see Cubone's real face, and there is a picture that has him lifting up the skull a tiny bit, so you could potentially see the shape of his head, and it does look like a Charmander, not gonna lie. However, the original concept for Kangaskhan was in fact a Marowak evolution chain. So therefore, it is confirmed that Kangaskhan is Cubone's mother. Just put that theory to rest. It is confirmed because of those original data leaks. That was the original design for the game. The original concept was to have it that way. They decided to change it, but they left the Pokedex entry about him wearing his mother's skull. So, what are your thoughts on this theory? Do you enjoy this theory? Do you prefer the Charmander theory? What's your theory on Cubone and why Cubone wears the skull? And by the way, this skull is like so cool. I got this off Etsy, and it's just so cool. It looks so realistic. The bone looks great. Nice. 3D printed. And you can even see there's like cracks and stuff in it. Really good job. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So while you're down below commenting on this theory, make sure you hit that join button because it helps me out a ton so I continue making awesome content like this. And there's also perks in there for you. You can get videos before anybody else. You can get merchandise and a ton of cool other perks like special emojis that I created just for you. And while you're down there, check out the merch store because I have a ton of great designs and more designs that always to come. And hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I mean, what the hell are you waiting for? Because I always come out with great theories and discussions just like this. And if you want more, just ring that bell. I post a video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Without further ado, see you next time. Before you go though, make sure you check out that video. That's pretty much all I got to say.